Here, how come with Cabo? What happened
They
there?
switched the order.
We're just calling off.
Sorry,
Ah.
I'm rookie.
You confused? Oh, she's confused me.
Yes. I'm just going by the list
And
I
I'm
have.
confused, yeah.
Feltner? Here. Koenig Vanderhaar?
Here.
Facto?
Here.
Pasick?
Here.
Nolan?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Scavo?
Here.
Jansen?
Here.
Bozen?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Let's take a look at the agenda for the meeting tonight. Are there any additions or corrections or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll take a look at the minutes for the June 24th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of that meeting? May I have a motion for approval?
Move approval. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you grab that, Jen? Who got the Bozen and Vanderhaar?
We'll move on to the director's report.
Thank you. Well, we have Mike Eberly here today from the Friends of Des Moines Parks. He's the vice president. We also have Brooke Avila here from one of our newer board members. And I'll ask them to come up to the podium and introduce yourself, Mike, again, and then go through the results of our first annual Friends of Des Moines golf outing.
Okay. Jen? I'm Mike Eberly, and I guess I was committee chair for this golf outing that we had on June 20th. And, I want to start off by, before we get too deep into it, what do I have to do?
Hit the down key.
Hit that key? Oh, sweet. And before we get too deep in it, I really want to thank Ben and the staff members that he has. I thought they went the extra mile. They didn't have to be here today, but I guess it's mandatory attendance for them. I was flattered, didn't work out. So I do want to thank Ben and his members. I want to thank the park board, those of you that gave support to us. I want to thank all the sponsors, and I'm going to name them because I didn't get an opportunity to after the event. And I want to thank the city council who some of those guys participated as well. Briefly, we raised just under $30,000 in our first attempt at this and netted roughly $20,000. We had about another $5,000 in-kind and gifts. In fact, we had a lot of people comment after the fact about how many prizes and nice gifts we actually had to auction off or draw for. And on top of that, we still have about half our golf balls, local golf balls left that we can use for other things. We have some shirts and hats left. They're no longer going at the bargain price if any of you want a shirt or a hat. I would like to name our sponsors, and please bear with me for a minute. It's a pretty long list.
We have a list, Mike. If you go down, on your presentation.
Jen said she didn't have them all.
Oh, okay, we have most.
The next one?
The down arrow?
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
down.
Am I in any of these, Jen? Come on.
No, but a dog is.
There's people that gave us $2,500 got a much bigger sign than the T signs. The T signs were $250, and we had a lot of those. Continental Lift is the owner of Continental Lift. They have an international forklift business. They're friends of mine. Their business is in Minneapolis, so we even got $2,500 out of Minneapolis. Bankers Trust gave us $2,500. The Business Record gave us $2,500 in kind with advertisements. The $1,000 level, my hospital gave $1,000. Jane and Rich Hine, Mike Simonson, Elizabeth Goodwin, EMC, Zombie Burger. Those women from Zombie Burger undoubtedly had the most fun at the event. and won about 2 or 3 bottles of the wine somehow. Iowa Des Moines Supply, and Dow Distributing. Dow Distributing also gave us $500 plus in kind on all the signage. So, and they were fabric signs, they were very nice signs, and hopefully we can reuse some of them. So, my list is going, you didn't do TD. 21 whole sponsors at the $250 level. And as you can see, we generated between mulligans and our raffle about $2,000. This is one of the owners of Continental Lift out of Minneapolis, Mary Kay Tomasi's son, Michael. And he won the bag with the logo on it that was donated to us. I'm going to quickly go through these sponsors because, you know, as these names, you might walk by a sponsor and think, well, yeah, you know, they helped us, so you might drop in. Zombie Burger, which basically was Orchestrate Management. They wanted it under Zombie Burger. Continental Lift, John Bergeson, Luca, Iowa Des Moines Supply, RDG Planning, Susie Mulehop, an ex-board member, gave us some money. The John Ruan Foundation, Shields, Jeannie Bell, an ex-board member, and mother-in-law of Mark Dahl of Dahl Distributing. NCMIC Group, Kitchen Collage, Business Record, Universal Printing, Salon W, gave us some money, and a facial that we gave away. Mr. B Clothing, West Bank, EMC, Mid-American, Knapp Properties, Ray Gunn, G&L Clothing, who donated the golf bag and money, Bankers Trust, Graham Group, Charlie Taylor gave us $500, Schiffler and Associates, Architects, Simonson and Associates, I think they're architects as well, aren't they? Baradas, Ramsey, Come and Go, Alan Sabag, Elizabeth Goodwin, Dahl Distributing, George Kinley, Matt McCoy, Fairway, Fred and Linda Nesbitt, GDM, that's Greater Des Moines, Botanical Center, the iCubs gave us a bunch of stuff, Willis donated the automobile that somebody could have used for a year with a hole-in-one, and Mazzoti's. All these people gave us something. So maybe support them. Jen undershot this a little. Total amount raised 18,000 is actually closer to 20. But this is the date for next year's. It's 1 day earlier than this year. We've got we've got Waveland saved already. We're going to start a lot earlier this year. We sort of got a late start. And I think we can, I don't see why we couldn't do 50 or 60,000 if we, you know, get started early and work on it next year. Now people kind of know what's going on. I think everybody that came, the comments, by and large, were just all positive. Everybody had a lot of fun. We spent $600 and some, and Nettie kept the pizzas coming, which was a good thing. One of the better last-minute things we did because it held people there. Some of the groups were 40 minutes late getting in. So, so to all of you that helped, thank you very much, and I'd entertain any questions anybody might have.
I want to thank Mike, you, and all the work that you did and the friends. There were not only all the support that they brought in, but there were as many volunteers there as there were people golfing. I mean, it was just an incredible turnout.
Well, she's married to me. She had to volunteer. Paula brought her friends to volunteer. So I'm sure what goes around will come around later in some other event. But
Thank you so much.
thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, we have Larry Idris from our Park Planning Department to do your Did You Know on Ashby Park. Larry.
There.
Which Moines makes it just a little slide.
Here it comes. It's in the orange bar up there, right above the minus sign and the plus sign, that orange bar at the bottom right, Larry. Right, over 2 more icons, one more to your right, right there, yep.
Okay. Chair Nolan, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Larry Idris, Park Planner 2. Tonight's Did You Know is on Ashby Park. Ashby Park is located on 3238th Street. It's 11.6 acres total, and it was acquired in 1925. It's located midway between Douglas Avenue to the north, Beaver Avenue to the west, and Urbandale Avenue to the south. Ashby Park was originally part of an 80-acre parcel acquired by Harriet Wallace Ashby in 1911. In 1925, Newton B. and Harriet Wallace Ashby donated 11.6 acres of their land to be a park. The remainder of the 80 acres was developed over the next 15 years into the Ashby Manor neighborhood. That neighborhood was listed as the Ashby Manor District in the National Historic Register in 1992. On the right there is a picture of the original master plan done in 1925 for the park. Fairly similar to what you see out there today. Soon after they were married, Newton and Harriet Ashby moved to Dublin, Ireland, where Newton served as the U.S. consul from 1892 to 1897. After they returned to Des Moines, where they worked with Harriet's father, Henry Wallace, who started the magazine Wallace's Farmer in 1898. Wallace's Farmer became a very popular magazine for farmers and is still in print today. Harriet served as the editor of the women's department of the magazine from 1910 to 1924. Harriet's brother, Harry C. Wallace, who also helped start Wallace's Farmer, served as Secretary of Agriculture from 1921 to 1924. His son, Henry A. Wallace, served as Secretary of Agriculture from 1933 to 1940, Vice President of the United States from 41 to 45, and as Secretary of Commerce from 1945 until his death in 1946. Both Newton B. and Harriet Wallace Ashby are buried at Woodland Cemetery here in Des Moines. Amenities in Ashby Park include a very popular splash pool, open air shelter, restrooms, 2 playgrounds, one for 2 to 5-year-olds and one for 5 to 12-year-olds, 2 tennis courts, off-street parking, and picnic tables and grills. This slide shows the location of all the amenities in the park. I also should mention that this summer we're going through a project that will replace the sand in the playgrounds with engineered wood fiber to make them more accessible. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Larry.
Okay.
Jen, you're up next with our July's Parks and Recreation Month theme. As Jen makes her way up, I do want to just thank her. She's volunteering to do this tonight. We asked for a volunteer, so she said she would be Rebecca 2.0 today for us, and we would see how she does. So.
So far, not so great.
July 25th.
Chair Nolan, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Jen Fletcher, Marketing Supervisor. Just want to remind everybody that Friday night at the Iowa Cubs game is Park and Recreation / Neighborhood Association night. We did a deal with the iCubs for $3 tickets with the neighborhood associations. It went out directly to the neighborhood associations. It was also a deal with our staff. We're very excited to do this. It's the first time we've done anything like that. The neighborhood association who sold the most tickets will get, one representative will get to throw out the first pitch. We don't know who that is yet. I tried to get that from Sam at the iCubs and we don't know, so that's kind of exciting. Hope you guys can come out and join us. And any questions?
We've had great response from the neighborhood leadership on this program. I know I've been copied by many neighborhood presidents as they send this out to their associations about having fun, enjoying the ballpark, and just enjoying the summer. So at $3, it's a very affordable ticket, and we hope to do more of these things with our neighborhoods.
Thanks.
While Jen's standing there, I'd like to compliment her on the great article that was in the Register on our new program on the upcycle stewards with the zoo that we're doing. Really, some great photos and some great information. And just
Thanks.
nice job.
Thanks.
Next, we have Ron. Even though we're now out of the flood, we do experience some flood damages and some flood just issues. So I wanted Ron to kind of overview what we experienced, and of course, all the good news that most everything's back open now. So,
Chair Nolan, members of the Park Board, Ron Ward, Park Manager. And it's been said, fortunately, the flooding is done for now. I'll just run down some of the things that, or most of the things that were closed. Mostly it had to do with trails and a couple of parks. Everything is back open now. We had to do some cleanup on the trails, obviously, get the mud and stuff off. Some of that took a little longer because you have to wait till it dries to be able to really get it cleaned off good. But the trails that were closed were the lower portion of the Riverwalk, Neil Smith Trail along Birdland Drive, and then also north of McHenry Park. The Des Moines River Trail from East 6th out to Southeast 22nd in Hartford. The Bill Riley Trail under the railroad bridge, Walnut Creek Trail from Grand Avenue south to North Valley Drive, Trestle to Trestle Trail at where it goes under Beaver, down by Lower Beaver, and then also under Euclid. And then the Gailey Wilson Trail was closed from William Street to Hubble. And then parks, Prospect Park was closed. Really, that's the only park that was closed. And then Simon Estes was closed for a little while. But other than that, everything is all back open now and ready to go. Hopefully that's it for this year. Any questions?
one of the, go ahead.
It was a great job, too, how quickly you got everything cleaned up. It's fascinating to me how that we could get back on our bikes and get back on the trails quick.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. That's nice to hear. Our team does make it a priority to get those trails back open. And, we always try to find a silver lining when you have some of these challenges. And one of the silver linings this time for us was at Simon Estes out here to our right. We experienced a loss of electricity, so we had to move some of our concert series. Well, we have this new great shade structure that just happened to be open, so we had people that experience new shade structure. So it's kind of nice. It's a higher elevation. We're able to, showcase that to maybe a new set of eyes. So hopefully we can always find a silver lining.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, cemetery.
Moving on for board action, cemetery fees.
No changes from last month, but we're happy to entertain any questions or clarify anything for anyone.
I've got a question, and I've asked it for 3 or 4 years. There's a plot, mom, dad. Now, can we pay a fee, for example, one of their children or two of their children, can we do ashes in a urn and auger and place and then change the stone?
Chair Nolan, members of the board, Marlene Anderson, Park and Recreation Supervisor, and one of my responsibilities is as manager of the Des Moines Municipal Cemeteries. So I will speak to your question. First of all, our policies allow up to 2 burials on a single space. A plot is more than one space. It might be 2 spaces or 3 spaces. So if it's two spaces, then 4 burials would be allowed on that plot. We do not control what is on the markers, whether they be a flush marker or an above-ground marker, and you can change your stone as often as you would like.
Right.
You would just go through a memorial monument company in order to purchase that. So you could remove it if you wanted to and have it re-engraved, or you can add engraving. All of that is up to you because you're the owner of a marker.
So you could theoretically put 2 additional augers, or auger in and urn or something?
One.
Right,
Okay,
2 in a plot,
Yes.
for a total of 4.
yeah,
So yes, we allow up to 2 in a single space, either 2 cremains or 1 full-body burial and 1 cremain burial. So that's how you can have 2 in a single space. Okay? So we do have people, let me give you this example. There are people whose grandparents are buried in Woodland Cemetery. And those were full-body burials maybe at the time. And then maybe the grandchild comes along and would like to be buried there with their grandparents. If it's a cremains burial, they can be buried in the same grave site as one of those grandparents.
but 2 or 3 grandchildren?
No,
Okay, 1.
one per space.
1 per space,
A plot is 2 spaces or more.
okay,
So 2 grandkids could be buried on the grave sites of the grandparents. 2 grandparents, 2 children.
okay. All right, we got it covered.
Any other questions?
Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Jen, would you please call the roll?
Simonson,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Morton,
Oh, she's doing it, Mike. Yeah, okay.
Feltner,
Yes.
Koenig Vanderhaar,
Yes.
Bechtel,
Yes.
Passick,
Yes.
Nolan,
Yes?
Davis,
Yes.
Scavo,
Yes.
Jansa,
Yes.
Bozen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the fees will move on to the city council next. I'll keep you apprised of how that goes. Next up is Richard Brown, the McCray Park Plan. Just like last month, you had the Riverview Park Plan. This is the group that we've been working with to do the renovations to McCray Park. And before Richard begins, just like Riverview, not that I don't want to have anybody think that there's millions of dollars on TV. These things add up real fast, but there are $0 right now in the city coffers to do any of these projects. The success of this plan, like the 24 other master plans on the shelf that are at various levels of completion, will heavily rely on private donations. So if anybody's listening and sees something they really like here and would like to talk to us, we'll be glad to talk to you too about having something in the park named after you.
Chair Nolan, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Richard Brown, Assistant Director. I'm going to talk about the McCray Park Conceptual Plan. We've spent the last 6 to 9 months hosting at least 2 public meetings with anyone interested in talking about the future of McCray Park, as well as attending several other meetings, from neighborhood association meetings to Southwest 9th Street corridor meetings, to talk about the plans for McCray, how we want to move forward, and what people would like to see out there in that park. Just a quick summary of what we heard out at the public meetings. There was a large emphasis on the trees and the natural landscape. No matter where we went, everyone always talked about the natural beauty of McCray Park, and they wanted to make sure that that was preserved in anything that we did out there. A lot of people also talked about they had very fond memories of the pond. They had either been ice skating there growing up, or wanted to see in some way that we enhance that and improve the ability of people to use that, similar to how we've done at Grays Lake, providing fishing areas and improved shorelines. The overlook. This is probably one of the most historic overlooks we have in the city of Des Moines. There's actually old hand-drawn drawings that came in old atlases in the 1870s that actually featured this overlook. It was called South Park at the time, but this is probably one of the most historic and important overlooks we have in the city of Des Moines, and it's also very popular. A lot of people stop there and really enjoy the view there. Adding a natural playscape to go along with the kind of natural features of the park, people thought that was very important, that we provide opportunities to provide some sort of natural playscape similar to Sargent Park that can really tie in well with the landscape that we have out there. Right along with that, finding ways to get people into those natural areas. They kind of sit there on an island separated from the mowed turf areas. We got to find ways to get people into those and experience a lot of the comments we heard similar to when you go out to a state park and there's some nature trails and steps and things like that. And then finally, this is probably the key point that we heard out there, is that almost everyone that we talked to said that they wanted to keep road circulation within that park the same and have that available for future generations. So, before we get into the plan, really what we're going to do is we're going to emphasize those natural features and landscapes, the pond, the overlook, and those savanna woodland areas. We want to provide bike and pedestrian activities through the park as well, but also at the same time maintaining the automobile connectivity through the park. A lot of this is precipitated by a REAP grant that we were able to secure, and I know we've talked about this at the past park board meeting, but we secured $300,000 to actually begin restoring those landscapes, start thinning out the overgrowth of second growth trees, removing invasive species. Also, we had the opportunity to tie the Meredith Trail, which is just to the north. It's at the very north end. It's the purple on this map. Well, we'll provide a trail connection from the Meredith Trail into McRae Park. And then finally, we have the ability now to construct some nature trails for these restored landscape areas. So we're very excited about this opportunity, and this really kicked off this kind of conceptual planning talk that we talked about. First thing is the landscape restoration. We're hoping to restore this historic oak savanna and woodland throughout the park. The map on the right shows what was the historic range of savannas throughout the entire country, and the yellow stuff in the middle shows the range of oak savannas throughout the Midwest and all the way down into Texas. This is one of the country's and even the world's most rare landscapes today because it's been cut down for farm fields or homesteaded or turned into cities. And so we have a great opportunity here to preserve and protect and showcase this landscape. Also, we want to convert some of these turf areas that aren't utilized for recreation or any other use into some prairie areas that will help to stabilize the soil and reduce some of the erosion that's getting into the creek and the pond. Here's a picture that shows what some of the partially restored areas within the park look like. We're hoping that we'll complete this, and one of the things that we've always if you don't know what a savanna is, we always describe it to everyone as it's a prairie with a few trees plopped in there in the middle of it. So it's a good way to envision what that would look like. This map shows, we envision a lot of this park to be these restored areas, oak savanna and oak woodland areas that you could intermix with, walking through these prairie areas, walking on some of these nature trails, a reduction in the areas of mowed turf throughout the park, and really limit those areas of activity such as areas for picnic grounds, playground areas, and areas that we envision a lot of the active recreation, even, for example, sledding in the winter. Some of the hills are great for sledding, and people want to make sure that we continue that in the future. Next thing that we talked about was a trail network. People appreciate it and really enjoy our paved trail loops. We actually see people out there in McRae right now utilizing the road loop for some bicycle and trail efforts, and we want to work to improve that. Also looking at getting into those wooded areas and those savanna and prairie areas to enjoy those, to learn more about them, and get off the beaten path. And then finally, the REAP grant will fund a connection between the Meredith Trail, which is one of our most popular trails, and McRae Park. Even though they're right next to each other, they seem miles away from a bicycle and pedestrian standpoint because there's really no good connection between those two. So that will really start to link our larger Central Iowa trail system together with McRae Park, Grays Lake Park, and the downtown trail system. This is the red is the paved trail connection that'll be funded by the REAP grant. Just above that is the Meredith Trail, and at the very top left you can see how close we are to Grays Lake and the Crichton Trail around that park. What we're proposing here is once that is completed, that we would actually create a bicycle and pedestrian loop around the existing road loop right there now, as well as a connection to the southwest at Davis and Southwest 12th. That would help to tie into the larger on-street bicycle network and work that we're doing with a quiet street along Southwest 14th is just a couple blocks from there. Also, we're talking about a series of nature trails to wind through some of these areas, get people out in there and see what's off the beaten path. Here's a couple photo examples of what nature trails look like in our park system. The top photo is actually some recently completed nature and mountain bike trails out at Ewing Park, and the photo below that is actually out in the areas of Waterworks Park. So we have some really good examples that we can model this after and use as a a sustainable way to get people out into nature. This is what we're proposing for a nature trail network, areas that will wind throughout the park, let people see the park in a different way. Ultimately, the final design and what that route would look like will be determined by a designer and a manufacturer that specializes in this type of trail. So when you start to combine our bicycle and pedestrian elements, both paved and unpaved, you can start to see we get a pretty good network of trails throughout this park that allow people of all abilities and whatever they want their adventure to be can really find their way and explore McRae Park. Next, we move into the automobile network, and this is something that's existed in the park since it's opened. We had very, very strong opinions about the ability of people to still drive through the park, and I think George and I were talking one time. We're seeing that it's a generational divide on people that really want biking and walking opportunities and people that want to drive through there. So what we're trying to do is marry those two generations together and provide those opportunities for everyone. So what we believe we can do is, the existing roadway is out there is about 20 feet wide. What we can do is we can dedicate about half of that to cars and about half of that to bicycles and pedestrians without changing the way people use the road, and then dedicating some space for bicycle and pedestrians. So we're really excited about that opportunity. In addition to that, one of the activities we see related to driving into the park is actually sitting in your car or sitting very close to your car and reading a book or having lunch over the lunch hour. So in addition, if we take part of that space for bicycle and pedestrians and leave the other half for automobiles to drive, we're actually said we need to provide opportunities for people to pull off. So we plan for improved parking lot access at the very northeast corner of the park. But at the Overlook and at 2 or 3 other locations throughout the park, what we want to do is create some pull-off parking areas that allow people to get off the roadway, park, either get out of their car and have a picnic at a nearby picnic table, or if they choose to, just sit in the car, read a book, and enjoy the nice weather in the park. Next, as we start to look at the kind of pedestrian activity and the bike activity and the road activity, we wanted to define where were these people going when they got in the park. And it really came down to 4 different activity areas that we really feel that people were going to want to use in some way. Activity area 1 is at the very southwest corner of the park. This is where the existing tennis courts are and the old 1930s era shelter, and where a waiting pool used to be. The shelter is not used very often anymore. The tennis courts have recently been resurfaced, so they're in very good shape. And that used to be where the playground was at the time. Activity area 2 is where the current enclosed shelter is within the park and the larger parking lot. Activity area 3 is up along the pond and right along the edge of the pond. And activity area 4 is the overlook area. So as we started to get into that, we wanted to see what we should do in each one of these activity areas. So activity area 1 at the very southwest corner by the tennis courts, we're proposing to remodel the existing WPA era shelter into an enclosed shelter. We have a very good model for this that we've done out at Greenwood Park. We're taking that 1930s shelter, remodeling it, and turning it into a modern amenity. We want to add a small parking area for people to park close to the shelter if they choose to rent it. And then finally add a small traditional play element. This is your slide, this is your swings, it's your plastic and metal playgrounds that we see in a lot of our parks. People, even though they wanted to see a natural playscape, really felt that this was important to have a traditional play area as well. So shelter house renovation, here's a couple photos of what the shelter house looked like up in the top right under construction, what it looked like when it was completed. And then the bottom right is actually an example of what it could look like when it's done, when we remodel it. This is the rendering that we used for Greenwood Park, and that shelter should be done here in the next couple months. And we believe that serves as a very good model for what we could do here. Activity area 2, what we're proposing is to keep the existing enclosed shelter and restroom building there. We want to add a natural playscape that takes advantage of the steep topography there. When we did the one at Sargent Park, we had no topography, so we have a really neat advantage out here that we've got a lot of topography that would really allow us to do some interesting elements. Proposing to improve the parking lot, and this area would really function as a trailhead for the nature and paved trail loop within the park itself. To give you an idea, this is an aerial view of what the Sargent Park natural playscape looks like. A lot of natural elements, a dead tree, jump walls, log scrambles, just ways to kind of mimic some of the things that kids would see in nature and get them out there and enjoying some of that. And then maybe at that point they'll jump into the savanna and prairie areas and kind of explore them as well. Here's some other elements that we saw people express an interest in. There's custom slides that you can do that could lay right on the landscape and take you down a big chunk of that hill. Looking at water play areas through there that would be accessible for people of all abilities and depending on what they want to do. And then also kind of recreate a more natural stream kind of looking area to dissipate some of that water and absorb it into the ground and also provide play opportunities. here's a few more examples. A couple of them are from the Jester Park Natural Playscape up in northwest Polk County. And here's just a couple more. How you can use natural materials to provide play opportunities for children to use their imaginations and come up with great things and have a lot of fun. Activity Area 3, we're proposing a 17-space parking lot. This is kind of near the north main entrance right now. There's a lot of flat space there. Provides some parking spaces and also provides an opportunity for us to add fishing and pond access areas. What we're looking at is doing an accessible fishing pier that could or could not maybe have some covered space above it to kind of shield people from the sun in the summer and provide opportunities for people to get out on that pond and fish and just enjoy the area. And Activity Area 4, what we're proposing here is to improve the overlook. This also, due to the ability to have a little bit of parking there, could provide an access for the nature trail area and really provides an opportunity for us to tell the history of the park, but even as the city as a whole, because that overlook has had one of the best views to see the capital develop from a fort on the fork of the two rivers to what it is now. A couple of examples of what we think something like this could look like. And we actually had one of our landscape architects, Lee Wheelock, who was here last month, kind of mock up what we think something like that could look like, provide opportunities for people to sit, enjoy the area, also provide those historical panels and educational materials about the area, and also just be a nice place to spend some time. So with that, like Ben said, we had to start to take a look at how much we thought this plan would be to complete, what we needed to do, and help us kind of start to prioritize where we go. Just the top of our head budget, all the activity areas 1 through 4, 500, 700, 400, and 500,000. We estimate those road and trail improvements will be about $1.5 million, and about $400,000 to do creek stabilization as well as dredging and restoring the shoreline along the pond for about $4 million. We believe it will take to complete this master plan in phases. With that, we believe some of the potential funding sources are REAP, like we've been able to identify for the trail connection, the nature trails, and the landscape restoration. Private donations, volunteerism. We worked with the Southwest 9th Street Corridor Revitalization Committee. They've been out there every year picking up trash once a year, really helping us out, and I think there's opportunities to do more of that. And then finally, looking to see if we might be able to prioritize funds throughout the future in our capital improvement budget to supplement some of those grants and private donations that we might be able to find. So with that, moving forward from here, our plan is to prioritize the elements, working with elected leaders, appointed officials, and some of the Southwest 9th Street people, as well as the Grays Lake Neighborhood Association people. We'll continue to revise those costs. Those are pretty real round ballpark numbers now, and we're going to need to start to drill those down to get a little bit better ideas. And then we'll work with those people to develop a funding plan and implementation strategy to ensure that we can move this forward and keep this kind of moving forward in the coming years. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
I have one.
Yeah.
This is a very thorough presentation and very good. The thing that I would like to see is no parking, well, I should say continued access parking along the pond, you know, along the road of the pond, because a lot of parents pull up there, and in the winter, you know, if that becomes an ice skating facility or continues to be, I think that we should not cut any parking along that pond area.
Yeah, actually what we've been able to do, and I said in there, but I didn't have a good map to put in there yet, we actually had the room to put a 17-space parking lot just to the west of the pond. So we'll actually be able to provide dedicated parking right there, right next to the pond for people to access that, as well as towards the south end of the pond, we actually have room for a pull-off there and a nice pond viewing area.
And pull-up parking along the pond, pull-up parking.
The parking lot, we'll have a specific parking lot right there by the pond.
Okay, all right.
We want to make sure we get all of your comments here, so if we hit the mark or we didn't, or there's an element that you think is missing, let us know.
There's an element that is missing.
Sure.
You have a historic park bench in there. I didn't see it in here as far as getting refurbished, dug out, or being...
No, you're
On
correct.
the radar. It is.
Yeah, we do
As
that.
long as that's on the radar, because it's one of those things that everybody drives by and nobody knows
Yeah.
it's there.
The great thing is the way we're kind of looking at the bike and trail loop right now is that the bike and pedestrian loop would be on the inside of the road of the loop, which would allow us to then just connect right up to that bench and restore it and provide
Okay.
better
Make
access
a
to
little
it.
plaza there you can pull off and just.
That'd be
break and
nice.
use it.
That
Yeah.
bench is
We want to
just-
celebrate that too.
Yeah. And
Like you said, it kind of blends in right now. It needs a little maintenance.
you would not even know it's there.
We
unless-
we know that, yep.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm really pleased with the public meetings, though, how much you took of their ideas and thoughts and really changed the direction of, not changed, but
Yeah.
tweaked the ideas of what you were doing.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think
Yeah.
people are going to be very happy moving forward as we start to implement some of these things as we get money available. We've also actually just started within the last month cleaning up the woodlands on the east side of the pond, and we've had some very positive reactions to that already. And if you haven't had a chance, drive down Southwest 9th, and you can now start to see the pond through some of that woodland area, and I think it's going to be a great improvement out there.
Again, those are estimates, and we try to have these plans with the vision in mind. As you get donors that come to the table, they also want to influence a particular amenity. It might be the shelter, so we try to be just very flexible. So those numbers are just kind of a ballpark figure. I don't want people thinking those are engineered or anything. That's just our staff using basic costs that we've seen come in recent projects. But it could go up, it could go down.
I have a question. Let's say that Company A decided to go the whole bore there of $4 million, and, but they want the park named after them. Is there a time limit on naming of parks? I guess, Ann, I would direct this to you also. And are we locked into through park names? And I'm certainly not suggesting that we do that in mass, but
So we don't really have a policy that says how long we can, and Ann and I work a lot of agreements together, and we've both said we feel comfortable in 20 years terms for naming rights, not for parks, but for park amenities, whether you're John Papa John or you're Lois Bright or you're the simplest person that wants to give us a small donation for something that's, measurable for 20 years. We've told all those previous people 20 years, gives us a way to go back out, because in 20 years, most things need to be refurbished or replaced, and you don't want to have perpetual rights with a perpetual expectation that you're going to have that piece of, that amenity up there, I should say. So the naming wise, I probably wouldn't be a fan of renaming the park, not at all, but I would be up to a policy decision that we could talk about as a board and recommend to the council about we've had this discussion a while back, maybe a sponsored by park, McRae Park brought to you by whoever that might be out there, or then you can also go down the road. City does have a policy for naming rights, as we know, we've had those come down our path a few times. Amenities, roads, shelters, play equipment. We just had Ashley Oakland, so that's a good example of recent time. Those type of things, I think, are already in place. They are in place. There's a policy that covers that. We really don't have a policy that brings in a sponsorship for park amenities yet. We can sponsor rec programs and have your name on the back of t-shirts, but we don't have, physical infrastructure policy that's ready to go for sponsorship type things.
I think this was a very good presentation, and McRae Park is very dear to Southsiders, and it sounds like it's some great things coming.
Yeah, we've had a lot of enthusiasm from everyone that's attended the meetings and all the neighborhood meeting and the corridor meetings we've attended. It's been exciting.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Do I have a motion to receive and file?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
great. I had the gun there, sorry. Chapter 74, it's that time of year we can go through all our fees and make some adjustments. We have Matt Salvatore, who governs from our recreation side most of these fees, but also in the crowd we have Amy Lego, who is our friend from Downtown Community Alliance. We work her hand in hand on different projects like at Brenton Skating Plaza. They actually manage that for us. Their contract allows them to make recommendations to you that we take to the council. She's here to answer questions too.
Chair Nolan, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Matt Salvatore, Recreation Manager. I have 8 sections of the code that staff is recommending to change. The fee increases would be an additional $22,300 in projected annual revenue for the department. I'm just going to kind of highlight the fee changes themselves and not go over some of the language changes, so you can stop me anytime throughout the process if you have questions as I'm highlighting the fee changes. Feel free to do so. First, I wanted to go over the 74-101 park facility hours. According to the concession agreement with the Operation Downtown, the Park Board and City Council are the ones that are responsible for changing those skating rink hours. And we're proposing, similar to other agreements, that the Parks and Recreation Director establish those hours, rather than coming back to the board and the council every time we need to change skating rink hours. For softball diamonds, we're proposing a fee increase for tournament rental charges per day per field at the Greater Des Moines Softball Complex. We're wanting to initiate biannual increases. Currently, it's $65. We'd like to go to $100 in 2015, $110 in 2017, $120 in 2019. At Kearney, the current fee is $65. We'd like to do a little smaller increase there, $75 in 2015, $85 in 2017, $95 in 2019. For practices, number 6 of 74-176, we'd like to initiate a single time block, hourly rate $17. It's currently $15 per hour at our softball parks. We'd like to do $17 per hour in 2015, $19 per hour in 2016, $20 per hour in 2017, just a gradual increase. We have a lot of people that are requesting practice time at our sports facilities. A little smaller fee for Ashfield and Chesterfield. It's number 7 on that 174-176. $12 per hour at Chesterfield and Ashfield. Number 8 there, we'd also like to establish a for-profit rental fee at our softball, Kearney and Savage and Greater Des Moines Softball Greater Des Moines Softball Park. $20 in 2015, $25 in 2016, and $30 in 2017.
Stop you there just for a second. Just really want to point that out. Over the last several years, these specialized sports programs have started all over the city. There's one off of Fleur and Park Avenue up there, MVP Sports, for example. What they do is if you have a child that's really specializing in, we'll say baseball, you send them there, and all they do is extracurricular baseball, and they charge them, $600-700 for a season. They're coming to us now with these high-end AAU teams that want to use our facilities. So since they're a for-profit model, we want to have a for-profit charge. Right now, we're renting to them at the current rate, but they're taking it away, using it as a business, basically. So we want to make sure they're paying at a little higher rate if they're going to use those facilities. Does that make sense? Okay.
We also had a very extensive process with our local soccer organizations for changing some fees. We've met with them over the last 6 months, and we've come up with a plan to reduce the subsidy at County Soccer Complex. Number 10 on page 3 there, we're looking at doing the league fee per match from $60 to $100. We're also going to be eliminating the per vehicle parking fee, along with the recreational tournament fee and the per-match stadium fee, and we're going to a new set of fees for team parking fees. That way we don't have to have somebody at the front of the complex possibly blocking the train tracks. We don't have to have staff on site, which would save the city $6,000 to $8,000. So based on the size of your teams, you can see there number 12 on page 3, 3-on-3 teams would pay $40 per team starting this fall. 10 and under teams, $75 per team. 11 and 12-year-olds teams would be $140. 13 years and older would be $165. And we are going to phase those fees, do some gradual increases through 2021.
Again, we negotiated with more than 8 different soccer entities in the metro area, and I can't tell you that we've ever had more of a difficult time getting everybody on the same page. And it wasn't because we wanted to really up our fees, but we were behind the market rate. And then the UP Railroad threw us a little bit of a curveball. We used to be able to block that gate. They said no longer, and we understand that, so we couldn't have a gate fee. So this is not what you'd pay to play soccer, because the tournaments will come to us and say, we've got a dozen teams that want to play this date. If it works our calendar, we say okay. They collect their fee to put their tournament on. We're collecting the usage of the facility fee, and they're just passing that on, so they're adding this to their fee for their tournament here. And that's the model that soccer's going to. There isn't a county soccer comparable in Iowa, so we went out beyond our borders and looked down at some of the regional comparisons we have in Kansas City and in Ohio and in Minnesota, so we do have some good comparables here. I feel very confident in those.
Any questions about the sports field section of the code? I'll move on to park rentals then. It's been a long time since we've done open air shelter rental fee increases there. The last time, the current fee of $30 has been in place since 1993. So it's time for a change. I think staff is recommending to bump that up to $40. And there's 600 plus open air shelter rentals in our park system every year, so it's a significant amount of money.
You think about McHenry's open shelter, that's a pretty good fee to have a facility like that for $40 for your party.
Moving on to page 4 of your communication, aquatic center, swimming pools, and marina. Our new online system for Parks and Recreation Department's kind of changing the way we do business. Everyone's able to go online, the convenience of their own home, and, for example, rent a swimming pool. The way that we had the process structured before, the base rate for swimming pool rentals, which are very popular, was $110 per hour, and then $1 per person over 50 persons. Well, we have no way of charging that way with our online system. So staff's recommending to do categories of 1 to 50, 51 to 100, 101 to 50, so on and so forth. And the fee would coincide with each category. Just an easier way to do business and possibly capture a little additional revenue. Brenton Skating Plaza fees. The skating plaza itself over this last winter was closed for 27 days due to extreme cold and extreme warm temperatures. So there was a very substantial operation loss of about $60,000. So we want to minimize that gap. We worked with Operation Downtown. Amy Lego's here on hand if you have any questions, to kind of phase in some increases over the next 3 years to reduce that subsidy. You can see their adult weekday charges would go up about 50 cents a day, 50 cents for daily rate, along with the weekend rentals. Your child and seniors are only going to be about a quarter a year for the daily rate. Same thing on the weekends. Your skate rentals would go up a quarter a year. Adult season pass, $7.50 per year. Child season pass, $2 per year. Your family pass of 2 would be about $7.50 per year, and the family season maximum would be $15 per year. Any questions for myself or Amy regarding the skating fees?
Have you done a study of, for example, Raccoon Valley?
I will defer that to
You talking for baseball? Or are you talking?
Yeah, baseball.
Baseball, okay.
Little League baseball.
Yeah, we did a comparative analysis.
What do you think it costs a kid to play ball?
As far as their rental fee or their...
There are, the cost of the equipment, the cost of practice almost every week, day.
Well, depending on the age of the child and the organization,
Well,
if
okay,
it's public or private.
11, 12, 13, 14.
It could range anywhere from $100 to $300, but
Huh?
$100 to $300 depending on the organization.
How about like $3,000?
I think we're talking about two different.
Yeah, Chapter
Let me
74.
clear this up real quick here. I think if I understand you right, Mr. Thornton, you're asking about what's it for like an AAU team and to go enter into a bunch of tournaments and play for a season?
Yeah, I understand that.
You're definitely correct that
The
probably
AAU.
$3,000 anymore with the traveling circuit. Our business model is a little bit, bifurcated anymore. We still serve the recreational model for kids that want to play just recreational sports, but we also have high-end facilities that we also engage on the weekends. It's one of the trends I've seen happen in Des Moines is Monday through Thursday, our facilities are to serve the local community,
Right.
like county baseball is. But come Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're economic engines for the city. We're recruiting people from Texas to come up and play here,
Well,
which is
yeah.
not, by the way, unforeseen. We saw a Texas license plate last week.
I got 3 kids, the grandkids that play 2 or 3 Saturdays and Sunday tournaments. I looked in, I asked a couple of fathers to bring me their high school annuals to see if they were on the baseball team. They weren't. It's kind of gotten out of control. The equipment is expensive.
It is.
I mean, really expensive. I mean, it's $9,000, to outfit 3 kids.
Dick, I think he's talking about, let's see what they're talking about. You're talking about a select team, say, versus a Little League team, and Parks and Rec doesn't have any control over that. The only thing they can control is their facility as far as, if a private tournament comes in and wants to
Right.
charge $500 or $600 per team to have them enter that tournament,
Right.
the only thing we can do as Park and Rec is rent the facility. We don't have any say-so on the cost or the direction that they go with that tournament. So
Well,
that's what they're talking, I think that's what Matt's talking about today is the rental process.
Yeah, Chapter 74 is all
Yeah.
facility-based fees.
Well, now, I mean,
Regarding-
now that they, I mean, ordinary Little League baseball has turned into, you go through your league and then have tournaments. And, they're 2-day tournaments, and they're usually 3 games a day. What about, for example, the concession stands?
Well, that would go with the park.
I mean, but they pay,
Yeah.
they pay us?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We don't operate any more concession stands other than Gray's Lake still. But for
Okay.
sports complexes, those are all competitively bid. In most scenarios, at South Des Moines Little League, it's exchanged to, they pay 100%, almost 98% of the bills at Jim County Baseball Facility, not soccer.
Yeah.
That one is run by South Des Moines Little League.
No,
Yep.
Ben, I understand that and understand what it's growing into, but, like Raccoon Valley, they're little kids that would love to play, and great little athletes. They can't afford it. They can't afford the equipment.
I went through Matt's pricing because my interest is baseball and
Oh, I know,
softball.
I
I
know.
went through Matt's pricing or proposed pricing from staff, and I thought it was very, very fair, and it embraced not only the Little League element, but the private tournament element, and so a person is just not going to come in and walk over the facilities on a private tournament, and
Oh, yeah.
and it
No,
also
I agree.
opens it up for all leagues.
No, I
I thought the athletic pricing was very fair, the athletic facility pricing. Now, as far as ice skating, I have to defer to Mr. Scavo. In fact, he's going skating right now, but
Right now.
So, on skating,
Is there any comments on skating, questions? Amy's here in case anyone has any questions.
Well, I will defer to my authority, and you're my authority,
I appreciate that.
period.
one of the things we continue to bring to you is, because it's labor intensive on the staff end, is going 2 and 3 years out. But I want you to know at any time that you don't feel comfortable, even if the dynamics change or the economy changes, we can always bring things up. They're set in stone, but the same process to write them, we'll unwrite them if we need to go back to council and make recommendations, as long as the council buys into that and votes for it.
And as far as program fees go, those are not set by Chapter 74. Those are set by staff. So it's much easier to change with the market.
May I make another statement here, just to give you an idea?
Yeah.
We'll talk about Kearney Park and what he alluded to earlier about, some of the sports agendas in Des Moines. Well, we've had in the past, this is before I retired, but we've had in the past where a sports facility would want to come in and say rent Kearney Park for the whole week at our old rate of $15 an hour, because they can charge back a tremendous price to have those teams and to go use that facility. So at $15 an hour, and when you put it out there, these teams start signing up as early as, well, they want to know in December when they can sign up, and by January, we're full on all those time slots, because that is quite a bargain. And I think the proposal from staff was to go to 17, and then, it was a $1 increment or a $2 increment. And as you know, that's still a pretty good bargain all the way through. So I really support where you're at right now.
I could see the one with the practice fees and the field rental fees per hour to continue on, to keep taking a look at those fees very closely, because supply and demand, those are very popular facilities for those types of activities.
You want us to keep moving past the skating plaza, or do you want to stay there and have questions on the skating plaza fees?
I'll defer to George.
Okay, moving on to page 5 of your communication, Simon Estes Riverfront Amphitheater. Kind of the same thing with our new online system. Staff thought it would be best to have one flat rate versus 2 different rates. Currently we have a $500 fee for private events, a $750 for fee-based events, with an additional per hour charge, and we thought it'd be best just to meet in the middle for as many events that are done there, and just have one standard flat fee when they're going online. That way they're just looking at one thing and not getting confused by 2 separate fees.
I had a question about that. I personally think that it makes a difference to distinguish between a private event and a fee-based. And I might be the only one, but like I think there's a difference between a wedding party and Nightfall on the River, because it's a commercial pursuit. And so I don't think that's confusing if it's, are you selling tickets to an event that is fee-based and a private event? I mean, I don't see why
Well,
that's.
the renter may see both options and automatically choose the less expensive of the two options. So we may not be getting the full picture of what's going on with that, the rental.
But aren't you then penalizing the private user at the expense?
I think the fees, I think, are very, very fair, so it's probably due to go up a little bit.
What we did in this
But
one in particular was
five-
we brought them into the middle. We took the highest one down, the lowest one up, and tried to say, because there wasn't a lot of comparable facilities like this on a Riverwalk to benchmark this one against, and we just thought the going rate over the last few years, since we haven't changed those fees, would be fair in the middle. And again, you bring up a very valid point, Paul. I certainly agree with it. Matt's right, we have a problem, we don't have an easy way to fix it, so we're bringing to you one solution, and if you don't like it, we can go back and change it between now and the next meeting. The
Well-
other part is just being on site, even if they told us in the best case scenario that, yeah, I'm a nonprofit, we're not gonna go out there and check them, we just don't have the resources to
But-
do so.
But Ben, isn't that also true with the swimmers, 1 to 50, 51 to?
No, because
staff on site.
we have to be on site there, plus the state code requires
Give them to play.
per size of pool, square foot as your water surface, we have to have an extra lifeguard come in at every so many increments.
Later.
I don't know. I just see that there are quite a few weddings and different things over there, and
Yeah.
I think there should be a bifurcated fee. To go from 500 to 625 in 1 year for private is, I think, a lot. That's $125, and if people are doing it there, probably, they don't have the money or for whatever reason can't rent a church or the World Food Prize. That's just my personal opinion. I think we should, and I don't think would a commercial operator really get away with saying it's private and then having a concert there? I mean, I guess I don't.
You'd be surprised. We
Yep.
see it a lot. In fact, I had one today, and I had one last week on another one. We had to call somebody out about what they were doing. I just think people in general want to be able to raise money at that facility. It's a revenue generation facility for most people if it's not the wedding feature. And if it is the wedding feature, I tell you right now, across the street, several $1,000s to rent the World Food Prize.
I know, and that's
So
why
I-
I think
yeah.
we should have a reasonable one.
I think this
That's
is.
my point exactly.
No, I agree with you. I just think I think we're priced appropriately here, but I'm okay as the board, you get to make the recommendation.
We have other
maybe
wedding
I'm the
locations that are lower than Simon Estes. That's just one option for
Maybe
weddings.
I'm the only one, but I just know, because I live across, that there are a ton of people who use it for weddings and different things, and to go from 5 to 625 for a personal event is, to me, a lot different than a concert, which I also support. But I think a commercial interest, I think there should be a difference. It's just a comment. I mean, maybe I'm the only one.
Any other discussion there?
I agree with Paula, where the for-profit, seems to me that they might be charged more than a nonprofit, even though you have to figure out, gee, are you cheating? And I hate to think of people doing that, but I agree with that.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of variables. We're certainly not opposed to for-profit entities. They bring
No,
entertainment.
not at all.
No, and I'm not saying that we are, but I think there are so many variables. I think of wear and tear. One event can really cause a lot of damage to a piece of property where another one may not. The thing we struggle with is how do you quantify across the whole city with all of these facilities and keep track of things, and I think we're just trying to come up with the best fair way that we can.
Yeah, we certainly, and we'll take these back, we can come back with an alternative for you to decide on for now and then, or you can email us ideas. I just think that We don't have a problem right now. I don't think we'll have a problem even next year if it was 625. I think that facility sells itself right now. I think it's affordable. It's a destination. It was built to be a destination. And if it was, I'd be the first to tell you I was wrong, and we can come back. These fees are a little bit science, a little bit gut instinct about what you're seeing in the community, so we try to do our best on setting fees, but I'm certainly, as you know, the one that would be the first to tell you if I was wrong, and if you don't like this one, we'll go back and we'll come back with a different proposal.
Can you come back to us in a year and let us know how that
Absolutely.
fee?
Yeah, I just think in the meantime, going up from 5 to 625 is a large increase for, and don't they have to describe what their event is at all? I mean, it seems like we all are online every day, and merchants just generally are able to distinguish.
If they do have to provide event details, and for
Well,
example,
then-
we had an event this last weekend at one of our parks that said family gathering, and it was a huge concert. So we're not always getting the full picture of what's going
Well,
on.
maybe we're not asking for enough detail.
Oh, we do. We
Yeah,
have a
they're
pretty
supposed
good.
to email me directly with all their event details.
He's a clearinghouse of all
Yeah.
rentals.
And I very rarely get those.
So what do you do then in that instance where their family includes a band?
We smack their hand, and then we.
So we're doing it anyway, though.
We try to get those people out of the system and say, you can't.
I would appreciate it if you just try to come back with
Sure.
a different proposal, and let's look at it. Maybe it's not worthwhile.
Not that we would want to add one more wrinkle, but I'm always interested in cross-promoting, and I've had the thought, if you're a member of a neighborhood association, do you get some kind of a discount to try to promote people being part of their neighborhoods, if you wanted to use a park or something like that?
Or could you have a shorter time block, like private event, 2 hours and under, it's a lesser amount, so that way if it's for a wedding, you would hope they'd keep it under 2 hours?
Yes,
Or
there's
I'm
some way
not-
to distinguish, and I think that would definitely be one way.
We'll go back and look at it. In the meantime, if you have ideas, email myself or
Yes,
Matt.
I like that.
The idea of the neighborhoods, just so Mike knows, as a new board member, we do something, we try to be fair, so we allow each neighborhood a use of a shelter, or even, is it still a wading pool too that we allow? Either or, per year at no charge, just because we didn't know where to draw the point off, and we don't operate in a lot of the facilities anymore. They're third-party concessionaires like this one would be, or the golf courses would be, but we do try to promote the neighborhoods, but maybe it needs to be bigger is what you're saying, so.
Okay.
Paula, were you good with everything up to this point?
Yes, I was.
Okay, I'll move on to Principal Riverwalk fees, specifically the HubSpot, which is in its first full year of operation. We've been working with Port of Des Moines on some possible fee changes. Our concessionaire at the HubSpot, after the first full year of business, there's kind of an idea on how the best way to charge for rental rates at that facility. Want to provide a little bit more accessibility, and I'll put a little chart on the on the screen here so you can see the different areas that are available. There's the HubSpot building itself, which is for rent, the River Plaza, which is down below, more closer to the river, and the Dango Plaza, which those are all three separate spots that are available for rent. The Dangos themselves are located towards this end, and we have to keep everything away from the public art so everybody can enjoy those. But those are the three spots. The concessionaire would like to keep the entire building accessible while rentals are taking place. So rather than close off the building to the public, just to designate a space within the building for a private party and keep service still available. So those are the rates here. The current rate's $200 for the entire building, but the proposal is for Monday through Friday before 5 p.m. to have a $200 fee for just a restricted area. For evenings, starting at 6 o'clock, that would go up $50 to $250 for a restricted area within the building. On weekends and holidays, that rate would be $300 for a restricted area within the building. And if you want to rent the entire space, the entire building, you would just add $200 to each of those three proposed fees.
Just out of curiosity, are we limited to the caterer?
They have first right of refusal for catering.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be negative, but, so, Monday through Friday before 5 p.m., to use a part of that building to use the entire building would go from 200 to 350. Is that right?
For Monday through Friday before 5 PM, the current fee is $200. It would remain $200, but you would only have a restricted space.
Right, so to have the entire building, it's currently 200. To have the entire building before 5 PM would be 350.
No, it'd be $400.
$400.
400, before 5.
And the reason for that is we heard some good feedback, not only from the executive board, but as.
I think you're looking at the
first year, is that.
I'm just trying to understand.
I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure they understand this too, that one of the things was there was too many rentals. So we're trying to disincentivize them to rent the whole facility, but you have to pay more to have the whole facility. That's the reasoning behind that.
I just think to go from 200 to 400 before 5 PM, and that's a really small.
400 is for the outdoor spaces?
I'm looking up here, it says proposed Monday through Friday before 5 PM restricted area indoor.
Yep, 200.
You have 200,
Yeah.
but if you want the entire building, you add.
Yes, right, if you add the $200, correct, right.
So we're going 200 to 400.
50% of which goes to the city and 50% goes to
Well,
the contractor.
I understand
Yep.
that, but I'm just thinking, that's a 100% increase in 1 year. And I would like to propose that it go to at least 150, which is still, it'd be 350 then, which is still 200 to 350. I just think going from 200 to 400.
So you're saying 200 would stay the same?
Okay, 200 is the
base
current.
fee. Yep.
If, for the restricted area before 5 PM, which hardly anybody, is there any way you have, like, I know we have DCA meetings there are meetings, but I think it should be 150.
So you think the proposed entire building should just be, rather than add 200, you'd add 150? In that last category. Just if you want the entire building, regardless of when you rent it, you've got to pay an additional 150. Is that what you're saying, Paula? Instead of 200?
I'm saying that if you want a restricted area, say you don't want the whole building, then if you want it before 5 PM, it should be $150 because.
So a decrease from what it currently is?
Well.
That'd be a decrease of
That's
$50.
no, it isn't. That's the entire building. The entire building, any day entire building, they're proposing 200, and I'm saying just for the restricted area.
So I think there's a little bit of confusion here. Current, today, before any changes were to ever be enacted, it is 200.
It's 200.
Correct. We're saying that since we've had feedback, it's only been 1 year, remember, and I just want to remind you that we had to literally pull teeth from people that used to bid on this. We didn't get anybody to bid.
I know, but.
I'm just giving a little history for people that haven't been on the board maybe as long. So we had somebody take it, and he's come back to us now and said, I've experienced a year here, I've listened to you, I've listened to your board, this is his, actually, they were much higher than this at the executive meeting, if you remember. We came back and reduced them down after great feedback from you folks. I think we do walk a fine line here this first year with our operator to show a true partnership. And I get the fee thing, I really do. I try to be very sympathetic to fees, but he's the person on site. If we don't try to let him have a recommendation of saying this, we risk the idea of not having anybody run that facility.
You know, the only problem with that is that from a public point of view, if you want people there, you have really good food, or you have really good coffee, or you have, now we have Bloodies and he has grillers on Saturday, it's packed. I mean, there are other ways to do that, and I'm sympathetic that we all want it busy all the time. But since I've been on this board, to go up $200, I mean, that's 100% increase. I think that's excessive. So I just want to go on record as saying that here's what I would propose. 150 for a restricted area, because those of you who have been to a meeting there before 5 PM, you know how small that area is. It's very, very small. So I would recommend 150 there. If you want the whole building, add 200 and you're at 350. Okay, after 6 to 12 PM, restricted area, I think 200's plenty. Again, I have book club meetings there, I mean, there are other meetings. It's a very small area.
Sure.
Weekday and holiday, weekend and holiday, I think 250 base is enough, not 300. In other words, I'd cut it down $50 pretty uniformly on that.
If it's restricted.
Yeah, just restricted.
Yeah,
You'd keep the
just
200,
restricted.
And you're not touching the 200 for the whole building at
No.
all? Okay.
And then and then in the outdoor area, the HubSpot Plaza, I think it's currently 200. I think proposed weekday, that's a little bit larger area. And I think the 300's fine. And the weekend, you could go up 350, although that again is a $150 increase. And the River Plaza is really quite large. It's, I'd say, 3 times as large. I went over there this weekend and kind of walked it off. So I think the plaza could be a little more. 200, it's currently 200. I would think you could charge a little more for that because it's bigger. Because I know someone is already trying to rent it for a wedding. I know that because I was told that. And then, so you could go 300 and 400. But I just think for that, the top part of that's
Ben,
high.
can't you make that back up? As I understand it, Mike Lavelle is going to start running a barge or riverboat from the ballpark up to the hub and back and forth. What's he going to be charged?
He's got an agreement in place already that shares the revenue for rentals and for parties, food and beverages. That's already locked in for a few years, right? Right now, the bridge, or the barge or boat deal is not formal, and I've never heard about it yet myself. Actually, he's moving his riverboat to Saylorville, so I'm not sure what he's doing in Des Moines.
Here's the other thing. If you look at the 4-hour block rate for the Brenton Skating Plaza, it's 500, and just think how much larger that is. If you look at Simon Estes Amphitheater, we've already discussed that. The plaza adjacent to the World Food Prize Building's 500. That's huge. So now, you know, I just think 100% increase is too much in 1 year. That's all I'm saying. I think it should be, on these other fees, you've ratcheted them up. This year it'll be something, next year it'll be something. And I much prefer that, because
So do we.
it's just too.
Those are our facilities, as you know, so we work with the vendor here.
Yeah.
I wish he was here tonight like he told us he would be.
Well-
I'll tell you what, I'll take these back.
You know, I don't,
That's the best thing.
I appreciate the position of the vendor, because that's our money too. But the point is, food and, you know, you have good offerings, which the complaints are from the neighborhood association. I got a complaint in writing. They're really, we have a cheese plate, 1 sandwich, and I understand that he can't cook there. But, I mean, if you want to, if food were different, maybe more people, I'm saying you can't just raise fees to make the money. You have to perform. If you were in a private place, you'd have to have food or other things. And I think Saturday shows that. It's got to be very successful on Saturday. So I don't want to belabor that, but it's just, I was looking at that on the place by Gray's Lake. You can rent that whole event, that whole thing for $200, overlook terrace rental, $200 for a 3-hour block. That's a great place. So why so much more?
I think the difference is that, and we'll take these back, I think we can do that. That's the best thing about
Okay.
receiving files. We
Okay.
get 30 days, we got great feedback, but
Appreciate it.
just remember that there is no apples to apples comparison. That's a building, heated, cooled, restrooms. Grays Lake is a platform with restrooms. So there's differences for us. So we really don't have good things to benchmark, especially when they're new. It's a good problem to have. We have a great new facility online.
It's wonderful.
We'll go back. We will come back with what we can negotiate. And at that point, it'll probably be up to you as the board to say yes or no, or send it
Well, I
back.
think, Ben, I think if we get a little too greedy, the numbers may go down instead of up, and I would rather, let the people start at Paula's number and then see how it works, as opposed to take a hit, and have it fall off quite a bit.
And what I'm suggesting is maybe not just fees have to change. I think it's fine to go up incrementally, but anybody who has a business, I have a business, a lot of people have businesses, you look at the whole business and say, okay, I can raise here, but I might have to do this too. And that discussion, I think, needs to take place.
Yeah, I agree. We can have that discussion with the
Can I ask
concessionaire.
a question about this, please? How big is the space inside? Because I've been in it, but it doesn't look, it looks like it's tiny.
I have about a 10-person book club, and what they do is cordon off that area by the window, and it holds about 10 people.
But totally, how many can it hold?
834 square feet, a capacity of 70 people.
Okay.
And they where he cordons
Yeah.
off is half of that, so it's
Right,
about
yeah.
400.
I can see, as far as the fee, I don't know how many the rental has been. I think we have to look, has it been has it been rented every week? I mean,
We've
I
had would 20 judge- rentals in the past year.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay. Because to me, that's a better space than a lot of the others because of the indoor. And I think it's a great space, so.
I do too. And it should be a lot busier than
Yeah, I was
it
going to
is.
say, if it.
Should be, I mean,
would think it would be
and I
busier.
think that's,
Unless, it's new though, too. So, But,
yeah, but on weekends and.
yeah, it should be
Mhm.
packed all the time. Would think.
So I think we all have to experiment with it, but you can't heap it all on fees.
Sure.
You want people there.
All right, well, we've got great feedback, and we'll go back, we'll see what we can do, come back with some changes to those two areas that you talked about, which is the amphitheater and the hub spot. I didn't catch any other notes there, did you, Matt?
That was the two.
So we'll go back, we'll look at those fees, we'll bring them back to you, and again, we don't want to seem on the opposite sides of the fence of any of this with you. We do our best to come to you with the best process we know and make business decisions, and we'll come back with those.
And how much money was going to be generated by the increase in fees next year?
I estimated $1,000 for the city.
20, oh,
All these fees, all.
All the fees together was $22,300. Yeah.
have a couple more golf tournaments.
All right.
Yeah.
And Matt, just for you, I know it's a tremendous, when you take a whole chapter and.
Oh, yeah.
And you've done
Thank you.
a great job on that, but we have a fiduciary duty, not to the vendor,
Right.
but to the
This is our
people
public
who
input
use it.
process, so your feedback's valuable.
We appreciate it.
Before we lose any more people, can we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I think our legal, Ann would like to make a comment.
I just would like to remind the board, Ben pointed out that you can email any suggestions you may come up with after this meeting, thoughts that come to mind about the proposals. And that's fine, but to make sure we're in full compliance with the public meeting law, don't copy any other members of the board, just direct your comment directly to Ben or a staff member. Just wanted to remind you that.
Thank you, Ann. I want to give a nice thank you to the whole staff for the bridge event. I mean, it was a very successful morning. Lots of people. It was, very heartwarming to see so many people finding out what we really do in the Parks Department. Having, lots of the kids come up and try things that they had never tried before, like disc golf or bocce ball or whatever. And I thought the staff really went out of their way to do some special things. There was a new putting green that was the sculpture park. Kurt brought his National Guard troop in with a climbing wall. Joel brought a screech owl for the kids to see. I mean, there was just, each section, each staff person brought in something new and something really, really wonderful. So I want to thank everyone for all of your input and all the hard work. It was a long morning, so
Good
thank you
thing.
for all you did.
Thank you for your support as a board on those events. It helps to have you up there too, tremendously.
Does anyone else have anything? Ben, I think you have something.
I have one item here that's actually breaking news as of 2 o'clock today, so you won't get a chance to wish this person well before now and next board meeting. So today, bittersweet for our team, but one of our members has recently accepted the job as the Director of Parks and Recreation in Sioux City. That's Matt Salvatore, so we wanted to tell him congratulations. We just found out today, and we're going to go toast him at Buzzer Billy's after this if you want to join us. So we'll miss him. Matt, do you want to say anything? Do you want to say anything?
I'm just going to say it was my honor to work with each and every one of you and staff. It's been a great experience the last 2 years. It's, like Ben said, very bittersweet. But I've had a great experience here. I'm going to miss being here and living in this community. And just excited about the new opportunity at the same time, so.
What are we going to do on golf committee too?
To be determined, I guess.
Committee guy.
I just told him that my annexation plans just grew now. I have to go west, and I can't just go east.
Kidding.
So, no,
Congratulations.
we'll miss Matt. He's done a great job and made a huge impact in his short time here in Des Moines. So we wish you well, but not too well because we're the better parts.
You've been a great asset to Des Moines, and I will tell you this, you've held your position well, and you represented it well with your total family and everything, and this is definitely a loss for Des Moines and a gain for Sioux City.
Thank you, George.
Okay. That's nice. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to bring to the board? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All those in favor?
That is, I'm glad he's going to the doctor, Mike.
So tell me what you were saying about.
Oh, my gosh.
Good job, Jen. You made it, Jen.